to follow who knows who, to ensure that we are successful in our bid to become senior practitioners, so to speak. So in this session, we have experienced senior advocates who are going to tell us how we can follow their footsteps in mentorship, particularly as part of the career advancements that we want to speak to. As part of that, we also have young practitioners who have done greatly well in their journey in ADR, and they also share their perspectives. And yes, I like the entire topic for the conference, fresh perspectives. We are going back to basics. So in as much as people say that the older practitioners are old, I think that it's always good to go back and pick from the basics. In Ghana, there's something we call sankofa. And sankofa means it's not wrong to pick from the old. So yes, we would pick their brains on how they have succeeded thus far. Having said that, I have had a lot of young practitioners and speak to me about how positively mentorship has impacted their career. Apart from them, there's a lot of data on this. But before we go into the discussions, I think there is a QR code. I don't know if we can put the QR code up and just do a poll, and then we can go into the discussions. Yes, so we can just scan the QR code for the Slido and then do the first question on the poll. Then we can go into the discussions. I don't know if it's up. Sorry, do we have the poll? Okay. So having mentioned, yes. All right. So having talked about the positive impacts that most young practitioners have had in mentorship, I think it would be good, I'll start with Mrs. Adodin Roosevelt. I'd want us to understand some of the importance of mentorship. So from a mentor's perspective, because I know you have mentored a lot of practitioners in this room and those who are not even here. So could you tell us how mentorship has shaped your career, including specific experiences or challenges? Sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, Madam Chair, Chartered Institute. I can see many distinguished practitioners, both young and old, the doctors, the professors, the arbitrators, the aspiring ones, and I welcome you all. Thank you for having me. Okay, for me, let me start off by saying that when I started my career, I don't think I was hearing the word mentor. I wasn't hearing it. I was lucky enough to be exposed to arbitration very early when I was in the Ministry of Justice, where I was seeing these strange arbitration clauses, just about 3 or 4 lines, dispute will be submitted to arbitration. And then we had the old arbitration law then. And then the United Nations Center for Transnational Corporations, I always say this story because they've done a lot. A lot of international organizations have done a lot for Africans, and it's time we start doing something for ourselves. They were doing a lot of training through the Federal Ministry of Justice, and they were involving a lot of the states. So as a state counsel, I was nominated for those trainings. I remember I went to Jos, and people came from abroad, people like SKB Ashanti, who is one of the very well-known names. And that's how I started hearing about arbitration. And then I started developing an interest, and I knew I had to train myself. Nobody gave me anything on a platter of gold. Nobody gave me an opportunity to say, oh, there are opportunities here, come and take them. And then I went into private sector. I was seeing arbitration clauses. I was involved in an ICC arbitration clause. And I just started writing to the institutions, Chartered Institute. They told me to write a paper. I wrote a paper. And that's how I got involved, and I was going on their trainings. And then when we were starting off, we were very few at that time. The Chartered Institute had just started, and then we started having meetings. And then we looked again. There were courses, and you are very lucky nowadays. You have the internet, so you can search the internet. There was nothing like that then. Then we started going on trainings abroad. I can remember specifically that myself, Mr. Dele Belgore, and Mr. Tunde Busari used to do a lot of those rounds abroad. We were paying our own tickets. Luckily, cost of ticket was not so expensive. And then even the people abroad were very kind. There was Tony Canham, who was a past chair of the Chartered Institute. He used to come to Nigeria and was very involved with us. And they were open to us. And we asked them to be our pupil masters. We used to call them pupil masters in those days. And they had this Chartered Institute Hotel Industry scheme. And many of them were appointed arbitrators to those schemes. And they'll take us on, and then they'll tell us to go and write order for directions. They don't need our order for directions. They were doing us a favor, and we appreciated it. But I mean, so that's how it shaped my life. I was ready to listen. I was ready to learn. I was inquisitive. But I'm sorry, I find that many young people these days are not like that. I'm sorry, I'm sure many of you are. They want things handed to them on a platter of gold. They want somebody to take them on as registrar, and they're not ready to bring anything to the table. If you go to the major institutions, the registrars there, they do a lot of work. They do the research for the arbitrators. They have good writing skills. So it's a joy. I mean, a lot of people are like that as well, but there are a number as well that just think things should be handed on a platter of gold. They do all those things. So people, it's a two-way relationship. It's not a one-way where you think your mentor is going to put everything in your head. You've got to show that you have good writing skills. If you don't have good writing skills, you are wasting the arbitrator's time. You are wasting your own time. So for me, mentorship shaped my career by me being able to listen. I wanted to learn. I knew I wasn't doing my mentor a favor. My mentor was the one helping me. And in the process of helping me, I was also able to be useful to my mentor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma. That is indeed true. You should not let things be handed on to you on a silver platter. It doesn't happen anywhere. But Madam Roberts, I know that you're also a seasoned practitioner. You've walked through the ropes. You've mentored a lot of practitioners as well. Would like to hear from you in respect of the importance of mentorship.
Thank you very much. And good afternoon to everyone. I must particularly thank the people who organized this room for these lights, because one thing I like doing is talking and not seeing the people I'm talking to. So I can't see your faces. So even if I'm saying rubbish, I won't see your reaction. So you can go ahead and react in any way you want to whatever I say. But having said that, it's a pleasure for me to be here this afternoon, because we're discussing a topic that I find very enriching. And I always say that some of the best things I've done in my life is to mentor the young ones. But for my personal story, when Mrs. Rhodes Viver was talking, I almost wanted to say that, why do you want them to know that we are so old? Because she kept saying in our days, as if those days are like 50 years ago. But compared to what is available and the resources available now, it was in fact ancient of days when we started. And the buzzwords, mentors, mentee, didn't exist when we started. And I always say that I was lucky that my mentor found me and my mentor introduced me to arbitration, because my story is a little bit different from Doyin's story. And I want us to tail back to the last session in the room, when one of the speakers mentioned the fact that when you are not in the room, what do you want said about you? And that was my story. I was in my office one day. I'd been a lecturer. I'd left lecturing. I'd worked in a law firm for 3 years without pay, just to learn the practical aspects of law. When there was no cell phone, but my office phone rang, and it was a call from late Honorable Justice Kayode Esho of blessed memory, who said he wanted to see me. And I went to see him, and he said, I'm a retired justice of the Supreme Court, and what I've retired into is arbitration. I've worked with so many lawyers, and they've disappointed me. And I've heard about you. I've known you from back, and he went on and on about what he had heard about me. Essentially, he wanted me to come as his registrar. to do secretarial work, package the meetings, do everything, all the administrative work for him. There's no way Justice Esho would invite you to do that kind of thing, and you'll say no. And I gladly accepted. That was the first time I heard about arbitration. I've lived and practiced in Ibadan all my life. Arbitration is just creeping into Ibadan in the last couple of years. But when I went into arbitration, Ibadan didn't even hear anything about arbitration. So when he talked to me about that and I accepted, I said, oh, to organize your arbitration, I'll do it. And then I realized when I went into the first arbitration with him, I realized I needed to know more about what I'm organizing. And I asked Mrs. Adekoya, what is the first book I should read on arbitration? And she recommended Orojo. I picked it up and I finished that book over a weekend. And I read it in 1 month. I read that book 3 times. And then the next arbitral matter Justice Esho was in, immediately he finished, within a couple of hours, I showed him procedural order. He said, Omo, who told you to draft it? I said, as your registrar, sir, I needed to draft for you. And that was how I picked on. And by the time I worked with him for 6 months, he didn't even have to ask me. I just took on the role and got myself steeped into arbitration. And he decided to mentor me. So you don't go looking for mentors. Sometimes your reputation speaks for you. Sometimes you come to us and say, oh, I want to be your registrar. You say it once and go away. I don't know the number of Orojo that I've bought for juniors, particularly in Ibadan. Oh, I want you to mentor me. Have you heard of Orojo's book? They say no. 35,000 naira, I buy it for them. Read it in 2 weeks and come back to me. Only one of them have come back to me. Only one have come back to me. Yet they want me to mentor them. That is not how it works. But I'll talk more about this. Thank you.
This is hard, but it's very true. You need to be proactive. You need to take steps to ensure that you are also interested in building your own career. I don't think that any senior advocate or any senior practitioner holds that key alone. But that being said, I think we've heard from a mentor's perspective. Now, let me just go to my colleagues on the other side. Ife, let me start with you. Can you just highlight some of the key lessons or takeaways from your mentorship journey? I know you are a model mentee. I don't know that you are one of the model mentees in our cohorts, so I'd like to hear from you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon. My name is Ifemena Iluizia Browder, for those who don't know me. Many people know me because I'm actually a Chartered Institute baby. Unlike the senior practitioners there, I'm the first of the junior practitioners on this side of the room. I used to call myself the Leonard Cotton, as opposed to Leonard Silk. And that's supposed to be a joke, so you're supposed to laugh. Thank you very much for cooperating. Now, unlike Mrs. Roberts, I like to see people. I'm short-sighted, I have astigmatism, but I put on my glasses to see familiar faces, and I'm very, very happy to see the same face I've seen for many years. I've seen Prof. Donije. I've seen my mommy, Mr. Adegbami, in front of the room here. And I can see, if I start to name all of you, I won't stop. And I have very limited time. But for me, mentorship has been an experience. I come from an era when people started to talk about mentorship a lot more. And I was very fortunate to meet somebody within the Chartered Institute, somebody called Mr. Greg Nwakogo, who was a fellow of the institute, he was chairman of the YNG. And he reached out to me when I was still in the University of Lagos and a few others to say, I want to mentor all of you, set up a timetable, set up a schedule. Now, like all the people that Mrs. Roberts asked to read Orojo and did not come back, we all did not come back. In all fairness, I did try my best, but this was a university and I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do at that point in time and what questions to ask him. There was just no exposure. But I had better luck with mentorship when I started working more practically. And I remember my first internship. This is going to shock you. My first arbitration-specific internship with Mrs. Adedoyin was Viable SAN. In her office in VI, I would leave my university in Yaba and go to Unu every morning to go work with her just to see how she was doing what she was doing and to learn from her. And it was a truly eye-opening experience. That was my first arbitration-specific internship. And, we would ask all these questions and she would give you all these answers. She made us read her book, which was in Boston at the time. We preferred the book. In reading the book and doing that, we actually learned a lot about arbitration and the cases and the relevant provisions of arbitration. So the growth was from this mentorship. I got even luckier when I qualified as a lawyer and joined the firm Strachan Partners, now Candy Johnson Law Practice. And I was hoping you'd be in the room so I can give him a wink or something, but I can't really see his face. But Yemi Candy Johnson is somebody who, alongside, that's what happens when I call his name. Yemi Candy Johnson, alongside somebody called Aaron Ibuchi, were very instrumental to my growth to lawyer. In fact, I remember countless times I would rock up in courts to argue a motion or do a cross-examination. A judge would tell me, "But why do you sound just like him?" And I'm like, I don't, it's not my fault. I'm very sorry. But this is what you get from proactively watching somebody, asking questions, determining what you want to be in life, what you want to be as a practitioner, and proactively asking people who are available to you how you can get better. And that was really, really key for me. And it was very interesting. I haven't mentioned, I work out of Linklaters LLP in London. And quite frankly, everything I learned while working with Strachan Partners with Yemi and Aaron is what has been put to use in London. It's literally the same things. The drafting, the strategy, the reviewing of the evidence, the argument is precisely the same thing. So when I talk about lessons I've learned from my mentorship, I've literally learned everything. But if I had to highlight one thing that you keep at the back of your mind, there's something Mr. Ken Johnson always told me, there's nothing more important than preparation. If you have to do something, prepare, ask the right questions, make sure you do all the groundwork. And he's going to be very disappointed in me that I wrote my notes for this session in 10 minutes just before coming here. But he always emphasized the importance of mentorship, the importance of preparation. So I think that's what I'm going to park you for now. And I'm happy to speak more about this subsequently. Thank you very much.
Before I come to you, Daniel, I think that our first poll, we had our participants skewing more towards career guidance when it comes to the most valuable aspects of mentorship. Being mentees, it would be good to know I wouldn't say the truth in this, but what is the reality? Because the other options that we had on the poll is also something that people draw more closer to. But then in terms of career guidance, Daniel, I don't know whether you can walk us through from a mentee's perspective. Is it the most valuable thing?
If career guidance is the most valuable thing in terms of growing your practice as a I would say yes, because it's good to prepare. Now you can prepare and then still get the answer wrong. You can write an exam and still put effort and then not pass. So really, what is mentorship? Is the ability to write on someone else's experience to get to where you want to get to. So from a mentor, you learn what to do and what not to do. I'll give an instance from my own experience. So, well, my mentor happens to be in this room. And then I didn't reach out to him per se to say, oh, be my mentor. It was a relationship that grew, with time. There are mistakes that other persons would make that I didn't make. I'll give an instance, say in cross-examination. Before I ever did my first cross-examination or handled a proper trial, I had seen my mentor do it, maybe 5 times or 10 times. And the key thing there is that I was involved in the process. So he would tell me, drop cross-examination questions. And I'll go over the entire case scenario, drop questions. It wasn't about him using my questions. It was about what I was going to gain through it. So he would come back and say, okay, these are the questions we should use. And then I would understand why those questions were there and why he removed the other questions. When I handled my first trial, I have somebody else who was in that room the day I did, my full, flesh trial myself. He wasn't there. He was aged then. I think I've let the cat out of the bag. So, and after the cross-examination, I spent maybe 2 days preparing those questions. And after the session, he's still with the firm. He's more junior than I am in the firm. So after the session, I could see the way they all rushed and picked up my bag. If you see the way they followed me after the session, you think probably I'm maybe 20 years post-call. And when we got out, he was telling me, that was fantastic. That was good. The client came and met me and told me, I don't know a lot about law, but I am sure that there is nothing left of this case anymore. And immediately after that session, I sent a message to him. I told him, I just did my first trial and it was wonderful. And this is what the judge had to say. And all he told me was, well done. And I would say that well done meant more to me than having an essay written to me by someone else. He doesn't give words out so easily. He's brutally honest. So when he says well done, it meant so much. When he said well done, it meant so much to me. So I'm just using that as an instance, just one instance of how I believe that guidance, is probably the most important thing that a young lawyer could benefit from in career growth. I could give so many instances. At some point, I was telling my mentor, how do people get invited for events? How do you get out there? And he said, why are you waiting for people to invite you? Do an event and invite people. Invite people or do an event, you be the speaker, put a moderator there. If you have 20 people, people know you spoke, right? You put it out there, you spoke. It sounds funny, but I did it. I did an event. Guess what? My first event was a fail. And he sponsored it. I went all the way from Abuja to Lagos. And by my estimation, I invited a speaker from Dubai. By my estimation, that event didn't go so well. And when I told him, he told me, okay, that's fine. We'll do another one. It's funny. And since then, I've had the opportunity to do other events. I did one yesterday, as a matter of fact. I did one in July. So I'm saying guidance, having the opportunity to ride on someone else's wings is something I think for a young practitioner, you'll be grateful, to have. Thank you. I will just stop there. There are so many, there's so many. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. But let me still stay with you. I know that Mrs. Roberts mentioned that there is no particular criteria in approaching a mentor. Sometimes it's your initiatives that you take, how proactive you are, that people appreciate your work and then decide to guide you more. But that being said, what are some of the challenges from a mentee's perspective in choosing a mentor or even approaching a mentor to be accepted? What are some of the challenges that you have faced or you have heard some young practitioners complain about?
So I didn't approach my mentor, but I can share in some of the challenges. The first would be really knowing what you want. Because when you meet, I've seen people, approach my mentor. I'm not his only mentee. I think I'm the best, but I think I'm the most prepared. So anyways, I've seen people approach him, and then when they leave, and I'll say, oh, how was the meeting with that person? He say, I don't even know what he was saying. So you should know what you want, really. There's a difference between who a mentor is and who a sponsor is and who a coach is. I'll just put a small difference to that. A mentorship relationship can grow into being, the mentor can become your sponsor later, but that has to come from the mentor. You don't go there and then immediately you meet your mentor, you begin to tell him your financial needs, begin to put on the mentor things that are not necessary for that kind of relationship. So really, know what you want, know what your mentor does, know how you can be of help. In a mentorship relationship, there's going to be service. Take it or leave it. And service will differ with each mentor. I can say, yes, be prepared and do this, do that, but you meet a mentor and then that's what you're offering or what you're willing to offer is not what they want. So you are the one who is in need. You will be the one who should, mold yourself to be able to, provide help to them. My mentor said one time, and he said, I will only take someone on for two reasons. One, if they can do what I cannot do. If not, why am I bringing you in to do the same thing I'm doing? Then he said, secondly, I will take the person on if they can make what I'm doing easier or if they can lessen the burden. So what it means is, you can be doing what I'm doing, but because I am busy, you have the ability to do what I already can do. So you must know how you fit into that relationship to benefit from it. Understand that you're not the only one who wants to have that person as a mentor, because more often than not, most people will go to high flyers to be mentored by them. You're not the only one. I'll use pigeon. Nobody only you like better thing. You people are plenty, or you people are, a number, and they will most likely gravitate towards the person who is more helpful, right? And then I would also say sometimes willingness of the mentor. I'm not taking the responsibility of the person approaching, but then I'm saying some people are not willing to mentor. It might not be because they are bad people. It might be because they don't even know how. Understand that there's a generation that were never mentored. So they don't even know what they're supposed to be doing for you. Another point I'm going to make is availability. Some mentors are just not available. Yes.
Because we didn't have mentors.
Yeah.
We don't know what.
That's what I think. I'm sorry to say that, but I'm saying that sometimes they don't really know what to offer you, what to do with you. Some people, the same way I would take a cue from Madam Chair, Mrs. Rose Bible, who said some mentors are not willing to do certain things, but I'm not saying all of you. So I'm not saying everybody. Oh, thank you. Thank you. So then the next one will be availability. So I would think that when going for a mentor, another a very sometimes it will be that your mentor is not available. So my mentor started off as being my coach. So I'll just say this. I have a lot of experience with having a mentor. My mentor taught me down to teaching me how to use Microsoft Word well. It's not so, because he had time then. So he'll give me videos I watch, and then when we are doing a case and I'm supposed to draft, he likes his formatting a certain way. He likes certain things certain way. And when I'm having a challenge, he'll bring me in when we're doing the review of my draft. We say, okay, I noticed this happened. So do this, do this. Now he doesn't have the time for that. Basically, what he does is mentorship, mentoring me, right? So guidance really is all he can do now. He can't be a coach to me. The advantage I have is I met him when he could be a coach to me. So the relationship also has grown or grew over time from him mentoring me and being my mentor now to just him being a mentor. I think I'll stop there. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Daniel. Soibi, you are welcome. I mean, we've been trying to, let me move this microphone, then it's easier. So we've been
Thank you
trying
so
to-
much.
That's okay. We've been trying to discuss the importance of mentorship and then how to navigate our way in finding a good mentor for ourselves. So Daniel has spoken at length from a mentee's perspective, the challenges in trying to get acceptance from mentors. So from a mentor's perspective, what are your views? How do you think? What should people look out for? How should people go about choosing, for lack of a better word, a mentor?
Okay, thank you so much. And apologies for joining late. So basically, what I think is a lot of mentees out there don't really have a plan, right? I think that's the starting point. You don't have a plan. You don't know what you want to do in life. You don't know where you want to take your career to. So I think the first point of call for a mentee would be a mentee who seeks to, get a mentor would be to first draw up a plan. What is it that you want to do in your profession? Which area of practice do you want to, forge on in? This would also help you identify the appropriate mentor to guide you through. right? And in identifying the mentor, you are basically looking for a mentor that aligns with your goals and aligns with your aspirations. You're not looking for a mentor who is the most successful lawyer. You're looking for instance, if you are in commercial arbitration, you are looking for a mentor who has distinguished himself in that specific area of practice. And obviously, if you have your plan put together, you would be able to tell what area of practice or area of interest you want to develop in. It also is important to establish a contact with your mentor. And Daniel has talked about the fact that he was fortunate enough to have or work closely with a coach who then transitioned to be a mentor. But the truth of the matter is that most young lawyers or most mentees don't have that opportunity to actually work closely with their prospective mentors. And good areas to meet prospective mentors are areas like this: a good conference where seasoned members of the bar are present or highly respected professionals are present, or you have good panels where you can see mentors speak from their areas of skill and expertise. Is a good way to also identify these mentors and reaching out to them. These days, we're very blessed with various forms of communication. You have email, you have telephone, you have LinkedIn. But it's important in reaching out, especially when you have not been referred to this prospective mentor, for you to understand that the most valuable thing for a mentor is his time, right? So you want to be able to pitch to a mentor in a way that within the shortest possible time, you're able to sell yourself, sell how serious you are to this mentor, establish some area of interest in common between yourself and this mentor, to also, raise the interest of the mentor in the relationship. And then, like every other relationship, it's useful for you to demonstrate that you have the ability to sustain the relationship. You need to show how dedicated you are. You need to show that you're a dedicated person. You need to show that you are an assertive person. You need to show that you're ready to unlearn, relearn, if possible, and keep learning as time goes by, right? You also need to ensure that in your first conversation, if this is your first, impression or first meeting with the mentor, that you leave a lasting relationship with the mentor, and that the mentor sees you as a mentee who, or as a person who has, the ability to do so well in the future, right? So these are the little things that you need to do to ensure that in engaging with a mentor in the first instance, that you are successful. And of course, at the end of the day, in your conversation with the mentor, I think you have to formally request for the person to be your mentor, right? So that there's no blurred lines. There's a clear picture of how the relationship is going to transition going forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think that is actually the ideal thing to do. I think you should, from my own experience as a young practitioner, you should be available. You should be proactive. You should let the other side know that I need that guide to grow my career. Because I always say that career advancement is your responsibility. It's no one else's responsibility. Anybody coming in is coming to top it up for you, not do you a favor, yeah, but to help you grow your professional career. Having said that, I want us to go back to basics. So, Mrs. Rosebible, I don't know what your take is on on the discussion of
Oh, this works.
I understand that how have I Well, I had some people who just come to me, oh, Mrs. Rodsvival, we'd like you to help us. We want to be registrar. And I'll say, okay, never mind. You can get in touch. Some get in touch, some don't get in touch. I've had some who say, oh, Mr. Rodsvival, I'd really like to be your mentee. I want to be a registrar. And I say, okay, before you can be my registrar, you must demonstrate to me what you can do. So I said, well, I'm having some hearings. I'll take permission from the parties. And if you can attend, attend. I've had some that after they've attended, I'll say, okay, you go and draft an order for directions for me. I don't need their order for directions. I don't need them to draft anything for me. And many of them have never come back. I've never seen that order for directions. And then they see me next and say, oh, Mrs. And I to say, and that's the end of it. But I've had some that have been very good, very hardworking. They bring something to the table and I give them what I can give them as well. So it's been different. And I've seen many people metamorphosize into different things. And I have examples, which I may not necessarily have mentored. I remember Foluke, I saw her up there. When we started last year, Foluke was there. I don't think we're paying her much. But when I see what she has become today, I'm impressed. Because she was doing all the runs, running around for us, but she was taking something in. And she's been able to use that to develop herself. I've seen Isaac, I've seen so many people doing that. I've seen other people that along the line, they fall by the wayside. Then they'll come around and say, nobody's willing to help them. Help them to do what? I mean, you have to take responsibility for your own life. And aside from that, I always want to say something. There's always a God factor. You must pray that you are in the right place. Because if you're in the wrong place, there's nothing you do, you are not going to get anywhere. And I always thank God that God led me to my right path, because I might have been in the wrong place. There have been many arbitration institutions that I've joined since there's a recent one. I've been a member of that institution for the past 15 years, an international institution. I've been there. And then suddenly 2 weeks ago, I get an appointment. And first of all, I think it's 419. And I'm serious about this. I think it's 419 because I don't know anybody in that institution. It's an institution based in it's an Asian institution. And then they say there's a dispute. I'm being appointed as presiding arbitrator. And I said, where's this coming from? And that's the truth. But it must be coming from somebody that has met me somewhere, that has seen my work, maybe on some directory I don't even know. So it takes a lot of consistency and hard work. And I don't expect my mentees to be impatient. There's some other institutions I've been members of and I've been paying my dues and I haven't gotten anything from it, but I'm enjoying what I'm doing. Some of them, they invite me to chair their sessions, international conferences, but I don't get appointments. But I know it's not my time yet. And that when it's my time, it will be my time. But best of all, I enjoy what I'm doing. So I don't know whether I've answered your question, Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. If we can have the Slido up for the second poll. Okay, so while we wait, we can just continue. So having discussed how mentees can strategically approach mentors, it will be good to understand how we can maximize the relationship here. So, sorry, I'm coming back to you. I want to know what the expectations of mentees in a mentorship relationship is, because I know you have quite a number of mentees, especially within the new school. So it would be good to know what the expectations are in the relationship.
Okay, I think the very basic expectation is that mentees want to learn. They see you as a mentor and they see that you've attained a level of success in your area of practice or career, and they want to emulate that. They want to learn from you what steps to take, what they need to do in order to get to the level where they perceive that you are at. right? So the very first thing is that they want to learn from your expertise, right? I think the next thing, and I would say the most important thing, is I believe that mentees also want to leverage on your contacts. They want to get your network, right? Because I think that obviously when you are able to leverage on your mentors' networks, then you are able to turn that into Naira and Kobo, right? And at the end of the day, you are also successful, right? So most mentees, I feel like these days, permit me if I'm wrong, but the Gen Zs these days, they may not be too particular about learning the textbook arbitration, but they are more interested in, look, if we do this arbitration, how much do I get out of it, right? And in leveraging contacts, they also want to learn how you are billing. I'm speaking now not from an arbitrator's perspective, but from a legal practitioner in an arbitration's perspective. They want to learn how to bill. They want to learn how to access these clients. They want to learn how to conduct themselves in meetings with these clients, right? I think that is the most important, benefit from a mentor-mentee relationship in today's time. I also believe that the mentees want to have a mentor that is accessible, right? A mentor that is also responsive. Let's be honest, it's not a fee-paying relationship, right? And we also know that in like every other meaningful relationship, there are certain characteristics that both parties have to bring to the table. Mentors, obviously, at that level of practice, are extremely busy. So it is largely unlikely and even a bit challenging to have like a Mrs. Rhodes Viver sit down with you for 5 hours on a Monday morning. Almost impossible, right? However, from a mentee perspective, I find that they want to always be able to access you. They want to be able to call you and run ideas by you. They find themselves in challenging situations. They want to be able to speak to you about it. They want to get neat bits of you. They don't like to read the younglings of today. I'm sorry. So they want to get the fast way. You're like they are the closest to Google in front of them, right? So they want to get, look, what's the fastest way for me to do X, Y, Z in order for me to get to, a desired outcome. So they want to be able to get that. I think that they also want mentors to listen. And this goes hand in hand with the time thing with time management thing that I talked about, right? Mentors sometimes can be a bit distracted because, like I said, it's not a fee-paying relationship. And all you're thinking about during your productive hours in the day is how much money I can make for the day. And if you work in the type of establishment that I do, where you have targets, right? All you're thinking about is your targets, right? And how to get your targets. So you're basically not, putting a lot of time into, listening. But the truth of the matter is that as a good mentor, you must listen. You must listen, and you must always give that listening ear. I've found in my position that it works where you can kind of schedule in meetings ahead with your mentees, right? Okay, so in a month, maybe the second Saturday in every month, we would have a session where we just speak for an hour and catch up, right? It always helps. And if anything comes up in between, then we can chat about it. But we know that every month we would have a 30 minutes, 45-minute window, maybe over the weekend when I'm a bit more relaxed, where we can speak, So I think mentees also like to have that. And then I also think that it's important for a mentor to appreciate and celebrate the milestones of mentees, right? Mentees want that. They like that. Oh, if they're writing professional exams, if they've been able to get their associate membership certification, they want you to congratulate them. They don't want you to ignore it, right? So I think that that's another very important issue. I also think, lastly, that as mentors, mentees need you to maintain a high level of integrity, right, through the relationship. And if you know that you can't do that, then don't bother taking on that responsibility. right? So I think that's about it.
Efe, briefly, as a mentee, what's your take on this? I just want you to comment briefly on Soibi's contribution.
I think it's very spot on. I quite literally have nothing else to add, but I just want you guys to hear my voice again. I think all I would say in addition, just because I have to add something, so I'm not useless. So it is just so excellent. I think I would also say that there are instances where, and I'm picking up from my first response, where mentees don't actually know what to do, where they don't know actually what their plans for their careers are, and they just need that little bit of a push to, understand what the scope is, what's available to them, what they can be doing. Because sometimes you see lots of motivated people, you see lots of determined people, but they don't know where to put this energy to. So if they're able to be shown the different pathways, different things they could do, and they can be pushed down that road, just a slight nudge, encouraging, not pampering, just encouragement, that probably helps better than, most things. I'd much rather you tell me how I can be something and show me how to do it than you celebrate my professional certificates. Even a small thank you like Daniel, it's fine for us sometimes. I think that's what I'll say.
Sure. Mrs. Roberts, I was actually coming to you for that
question, because I know what the question is, but so much has been said that I think that I would like to talk on behalf of Mrs. Rhodes-Vival and I, and all those people that she refers to in our days. Because believe me, you've said quite a lot that I agree with, but I always say that a mentor-mentee relationship must be mutually beneficial. But what many people do is they want to take, and take. I am mentoring a group of young lawyers, and not all of them are arbitrators, and I'm enjoying mentoring them. We've not had one physical meeting. There are 4 of them we've met virtually. And like you said, you can structure it. We agree ahead, we're going to meet on this day for this number of hours, and we do. But one thing I have discovered over time is that our needs are not the same. Mentees are not the same. And I always say this, don't write my story. Don't follow my story. Write your own story. Because there are so many things that determine your story that did not determine my story. And when we talk about certain things, I say sometimes it is about life cycle decisions we have to make. A young wig who's gone into arbitration very early, her needs will be different from somebody who has 5 children and who wants to go into arbitration. So the mentor has to distinguish and know how to help each category of mentee. It is not a one-size-fits-all situation. Now, let me give you a practical example. It's actually very funny. It was a senior advocate of Nigeria who called me about 3 years ago and said, Fumi, I want to see you. And he came to see me in my office in Lagos. And he was like, I just got an appointment as an arbitrator and I don't know anything about arbitration. I said, that's it. So I want you to coach me. I love teaching. So I coach my mentees as well. So I said, it's not a problem because you're a senior advocate of Nigeria. You're used to court processing. The only thing is you now have to have a mindset change. That what you're going into is different from litigation. I sat with him, and if we scheduled 2 hours, we spent 3 hours, out of which 1.5 hours is arguing with me. But I was very patient with him. And at the end of the day, I told him, please, for your first preliminary meeting, I wrote him a brief. I said, because you need to be very careful. If the parties counsel see that you don't know your onions, they're going to take advantage of it and you are going to derail. Come the first preliminary meeting, I got this call. Fumi, you are completely right. I messed up big time. Half of what you told me flew out of the window, blah, 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 blah. He is in a different category of mentee. Fortunately for him, the parties couldn't pay, so that ended the arbitration. So I then told him, why don't you go back to class? And I gave the example of Honorable Justice Kayode Esho, who went back to class after retiring as a Supreme Court Justice. How can I go? Who are those going to be in the class? I said, here comes your ego. Face your litigation. Don't come into arbitration. You've messed up once, but you don't want to listen. That is one category of mentee. Now, when you are dealing with, let me also practicalize this. I invite 5 mentees to an arbitration where I was sole arbitrator. I got the permission and my pupils, they want to attend and observe. And they all promised me, Mrs. Roberts, we are going to write the preliminary order. And I said, would take one, and then we'll have a virtual meeting, look at it, dissect it, and so on. Out of them, only 2 came up with the preliminary order. And then I called one that I found who was very enthusiastic. And she said, Mrs. Roberts, my son was in hospital on the day we chose for that meeting. So I couldn't go. I said, all you needed to have done was to call me. Because for me, I would say you are not serious, but you have very good reasons for not responding. So you need your mentor to understand your situation to be able to help you. There's no template for mentorship. If anybody tells you this is how to do it, and you know, because you are all different and your needs are different. And mentorship is not about age. I have mentored people who are older than me and who are coming fresh into arbitration. I met Mrs. Rosevival there. And it is just a matter of how hungry are you for that mentorship relationship. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Roberts. Let me stay with you. I know that you have said a lot in respect of expectations, but in today's world, things have changed. We are in a world full of Gen Zs and the tech era. What would you see different in Nigeria and even across the globe when it comes to mentorship? I know there's no template, but definitely there are certain key strategic decisions or strategic steps that people would need to take. What would be your advice on that?
I don't know. When people talk about Gen Zs, I find them fascinating and I enjoy their company because they teach me and I learn a lot from them. But I also put them in their place. I have no hesitation about doing that. And some of them are very responsive to that, because as a grandmother, I can't but say my mind. At this age, I don't want to die. I want to die empty. So I need to pour out everything in my mind. Look, Gen Zs have a lot. They're so lucky. And we ourselves need to tap into that generation. My first incursion in using AI in arbitration was from a Gen Z mentee who called me one day and said, Ms. Rowe, you told me to go and draft terms of reference for an expert. I used ChatGPT. And I was like, what is Tab? That was the first time I heard Chat. And then I can't even pronounce it properly. And then she went on about, apart from that, Miss Robert, we also have BARD, but they've changed BARD now to Gemini. And she, for 5 minutes, she had told me about, I said, for me, you have a long way to go. You are going to mentor this girl. But she challenged me. And I went to learn about it. I joined an organization, took some exams, and by the time I was talking to her, I was also Gen Z-ing her in our own space, and we could relate. It is about relating. If you cannot share your stories, don't be a mentor. If you cannot learn from them, and if you cannot give, don't go into a mentorship. Look, I'm mentoring one girl, she's my registrar, and anytime she drafted, and I read track her drafts, We are on the Zoom call for the next 1 hour. And she's challenging me and I'm coaching her. But you could see the willingness. She will not talk back at you. Sometimes she will agree with me 2 days later. Ms. Ron, you know, I have thought about it and we have another conversation that I enjoy. We can leverage on technology for some of these things. If you want to have a one-on-one with me, my life is so complicated. You don't want to have a physical meeting with me because for the next 9 months, we are trying to schedule that physical meeting. But let us use the tools that you are comfortable with and that I've learned, thanks to RevDoc, I've learned to be comfortable with. I can use Microsoft Word, name it. Even if you want to do a competition with me on AI, we will compete together. Because that Gen Z has also helped me to bring myself up. They tell me things that are on my phone that I didn't realize. Ms. Ro, you know, when you did this, you were writing point 1, 2, 3. You could actually use the pen of your phone. I have an expensive phone with a pen. I don't know how to use the pen. They taught me. Do you get the point? I mean, so it must be mutually beneficial, but you must understand the skills and the needs of each of them. And that is why I don't take on too many mentees. Because I'll burn out and they will not enjoy. But I can take a group. But that group has to be selected according to their needs. And sometimes you have to take one out and give special attention to, because I'm a mother. A girl cannot tell me that her son is in the hospital and I shut down on that girl. But then it is her own willingness to come back to me because I may forget about it. But if she's hungry enough, she'll call me, Ms. Roberts, I now have 30 minutes to spare on this day. And then we schedule another meeting. But you are the one who is going to determine what you get out of that relationship. Not Mrs. Roberts. That's the mistake many mentees make. You are the ones who will determine what you want. Call me or let's fix a meeting for a Sunday. My boyfriend wants to take me out. That's fine. Then let us look for a day that your boyfriend doesn't want to take you out. But my husband doesn't need me as well. Or my grandchildren don't need me as well. It must be a mutually responsible relationship. Thank you very much.
I completely agree with you. But I think now I would want us to address one of the big issues we have, and that's the elephant in the room when it comes to mentorship. And it has to do with boundaries. I'd like to start with the mentees, the younger practitioners. So there's been a discussion amongst practitioners about the boundaries that should be kept between a mentor and a mentee. And from our poll, we see that, yes, people have said that mentor mentees often respect personal and other boundaries. Others have said no, they tend to take advantage of mentees. Daniel, let me start with you. What's your take on this when it comes to boundaries?
I would say, you should let your mentor.
Sorry, briefly.
Yes, I'll be very brief. Sorry. I would advise that you let your mentor determine how that relationship goes. Generally, be professional, be simple, keep it within the work boundaries. Your mentor usually would sometimes open the window if they want. By boundaries, I would assume because by boundaries you can mean maybe between a male and female, or please can you give a bit more?
It could be both.
Yes.
It could be male, female, it could be female, female, because there are so many other things.
Great. So I'll just give a general without going into specifics. So I would say let your mentor decide how that relationship goes. It's important for you. You're the one who is going to lose, because don't be too quick to start getting too informal with your mentor. Don't push for it. Be formal. If they give that window and they want you to, come at that window, take it and go back. Don't invite you, or come sit with me and have drinks. Oh, great. Sit with them and have drinks. If there are conversations they ask your opinion on, great. But I wouldn't advise that you push for it. As well, you two should also exercise boundaries on your part. It's not every part of your life that your mentor needs to be involved in, I would say. So keep it within the bounds of the nature of your relationship. There are certain relationships. I promise I'll keep it very short. You can have a relationship with your mentor that goes beyond work sometimes. My mentor has come to my house before, visited I and my wife, and we talked, gisted, had great. He wanted to do that. And our relationship, has grown to that level where that can happen. But if it hasn't, I would advise to just keep it simple, both from your end and from their end. Respect, how much they let you in and how much you want them to come in.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Mr. Survivor, from a mentor's perspective, it will really be interesting to know what this issue about boundary really means to you, briefly.
Very much. On my part, with people I've mentored, I've never had boundary issues. There's some of them that in this room, we've grown to be very close. We've shared things in each other's lives. They've been caring towards me. I've been caring towards them. I've enjoyed the relationship. So it really depends. For somebody who respects themselves, they'll know when to make a phone call. There's some people I've met maybe at an event, and it's an experience that's happened to me, and they've called me and advised them on what to do. And suddenly every day I'm getting all these phone calls and messages. I'm not good at that. I'm not going to keep responding. I'm really not. Not that I don't like the person, but I'm just not going to respond to that, because even within my own family, I don't respond to those unnecessary chit-chats. But I have mentees that we have become close. We respect each other. We respect each other's boundaries. And in life, I think boundaries are very important. Even with your husband, there must be boundaries. With your children, there must be boundaries. So with that, in that mentor-mentee relationship, on both sides, there needs to be established boundaries, or things may get out of hand. But then if your mentor or mentee allows into their life and the relationship becomes deeper than that, which I have a number of them like that, they're not well and good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. This boundary matter is very, very important, and I'm happy that we've had some discussion on it. But before we go into Q&A, just across the panel, I would like to take briefly from each and every one of us what we would expect to change. And by that, I mean in respect of ethics, diversity, in terms of tech, in terms of setting up more structured mentorship, because we have had discussions and heard from the different panelists that there's no formula, but looking at how things have changed in the era in which we find ourselves, would you talk about structured mentorships? What would you expect to change? And not just for Nigeria, I'm talking global, because I have experienced and seen a lot of young practitioners reach out to lawyers beyond Ghana, beyond Nigeria, where they have very good relationships in terms of mentorship. So let me start with Ife. If you can just briefly, like a minute.
Well, thank you. Now, I'll just make one suggestion so my co-panelists can make the other suggestions. And my suggestion is that given the amount of the number of young practitioners we have in Nigeria, we're a very big country, 200 million people, I think we'll benefit from having structured mentorship programs. I think rather than leaving the senior practitioners, who are relatively very few, to the large crop of enthusiasts, we should have more structured programs where we have one mentor supported by a facilitator, and we have a large group of mentees who can be mentored by the mentor more generally and supervised by the facilitator more, on a more specific individual level. And a structure that can be adopted is the young ITA mentorship structure, which is one I've been part of, I think, for about a year now. They have a mentor, they have a mentee, they have a mentor, they have a facilitator who's a younger practitioner, and they have mentees who are much younger. And I think that worked really well. In the interim, and this is a comment I wanted to make specifically, I think that many times mentees look for mentors in the Mrs. Rodvivors, Mrs. Roberts of this world, and Sorbis of this world. Just look around you, who's working with you. These people are people who are actually obligated to mentor you because they want you to have a good work product in the firms you work with. It is in their best interest to mentor you to do the job well. And it's in your best interest to learn from them. You already get paid a fee from them. You get paid salary, but as well get paid more. Learn from them. I'm sure that when Mr. Ken Johnson was telling me, don't do it this way, do it this way, he wasn't just trying to be, to be kind to me initially at least. He was also trying to make sure that when the work goes out, the work is done well. And I think that's the easiest way to get mentorship. And mentees, please be proactive. I've had very bad experiences where they give mentees stuff to do, just go and write something and they never come back. You have to be proactive. You have to be proactive and responsible. And I'll just end on that note.
Thank you. Daniel, let me skip you to Mrs. Rhodes-Vival. Let me just take a minute to expect.
What I expect from I don't think we should over structure our lives personally, because it might be good to have a structured one. There are many structured mentorships now. Many organizations, they have structured memberships. Arbitral Women has, I think CIAB has, a number of them. I've done some in some Era Pledge. I think they also have some structured mentorships. But then there are also some mentorships that are more fluid. You meet somebody, you gel. I have a number of friends that we've grown from being mentor-mentee to being friends. So it really depends. It doesn't have to be always structured, neither does it always have to be fluid. It just depends on the circumstances of the moment. Thank you.
Ms. Roberts.
I endorse what Mrs. Rhodes-Vival has said. Whether it's structured, whether it's informal, the important thing is you want to get the best out of that relationship. But please, it would be very remiss of me if I leave without this admonition. Please learn to write and write well. So if you have a mentor who tells you to enhance your writing skills, in the last 6 months, I've said that to about 4 or 5 young arbitrators who have not come back because they felt that they could write. And I track when I'm correcting. And one of them started crying when she saw my tracked comments. And I said, the choice is yours, what you want to take out of this. It is either Mrs. Roberts redlined practically every paragraph, or you are asking yourself, why did Mrs. Roberts have so many red lines? When you get to that position, come and we'll have a conversation. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay. So
Okay, I personally asked her that I wanted to add something, because when I was coming here today, one of the things I wrote down was writing skills. It's very important. I'm sure a majority of the people here can write, but you need to develop writing skills. There's some people that I've had occasion to work with, not necessarily my mentees. There are some organizations you work with and then they provide you the registrar. And I've heard myself say many times, I'm not here to baby anybody. Because when somebody writes and the person is not writing well, and I think in Nigeria now, I don't think it will apply to many people here, but later on you might see people it applies to. A lot of people don't know how to write anymore. They write in a very immature manner. And you can't do that as an arbitrator. So I said, I'm not here to baby you. Go and learn how to write. Pick up books. Whatever I do, I try to do it well. One of the first things I do is I invest in books. Even when I was in the corporate atmosphere, I was a company secretary legal advisor, and I knew I wanted to go into arbitration. I started buying books. There's a book that has formats, arbitration precedents and forms. I don't know whether they still have them. It's a reddish book. I still have the book. I go back to it. I look at it. But some people, they just write some letters. And I said, what are you writing? I can't baby you. I told people that, look, you're not going to like me if you don't do your work well. You are really not going to like me because I'm not a very diplomatic person when it comes to that. So when she mentioned this writing, I said, no, I had to chip in and say something. That writing is very, very, very important. Thank you very much.
thank you so much. Thank you. We're running out of time, so we'll take a few questions from the crowd. If we can have like 3 questions. Do we have? Okay.
Okay. Nice to meet you.
No, it's okay. All right. So we have a question here. What's the importance of mentorship in international arbitration? I don't know if
We
sorry,
didn't hear
you
the
can't hear
question.
me. What is the importance of mentorship in international arbitration? I think we've addressed this at length. Yes, and also how does one find a mentor but sensitive to the time constraints of mentors who often are busy? I think we have also addressed this
addressed
at
that,
length.
yeah.
Mentorship isn't just about the mentor giving the mentee a job, right? If so, what is it about? I think we've also talked about
Yes.
this to an extent. How can corporate lawyers who wish to venture into arbitration find a mentor in the arbitration field? Yes, but I don't know if Ms. Roberts.
I have a practical example, in fact, two corporate lawyers who approached me, Mrs. Roberts, we want you to mentor us. And they couldn't make the time. And that's why I said, your situation is going to determine what you're going to get out of it. Oh, Ms. Roberts, I couldn't do it because I had a deadline to meet. Those were the excuses. So even if you have the best mentor and you don't have the time to have a relationship with that mentor, it's not going to work. So it's not a question of how do I find? It is a question of, am I ready for that relationship? So please, this question of how do I find? Ms. Rose Bible has told you she's available. Prof is available. Mr. Ade, we are available. But do you yourself have the commitment to give to that relationship? Because everybody is busy. Even if I'm not busy, I'd rather have time with my husband than mentor somebody who's not serious. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we will take our last question. There's a question for Daniel, but I think it's a personal question. So should a mentor be in your jurisdiction or can they be international in international arbitration? If it will take that.
I think your mentor can be anywhere. And what we should actually say practically is that there are lots of mentorship programs. See, they've put this thing out to block my face, my fine face. There are lots of mentorship programs that are organized by lots of international arbitration organizations. There's Young IT, there's the Young ICA, the Chartered Institute, there's lots of them. So look for them and you get connected with leading international practitioners, old and young. But I'm very keen on maximizing relationships that are very close to you because you can gain so much more from those relationships. The seniors who are around you have done this job for a very long time, even if it's not arbitration, like Mrs. Roberts said. If you are a senior advocate of Nigeria, you've done lots of commercial disputes, presumably. Those same skills, stay for your change of mindset and knowledge of arbitration procedure, what you use in actual arbitration. So if you hone those skills, if you practice those skills with the people who are closest to you, you become a better arbitration practitioner by just working with people closest to you. In addition to what you get from this conference about arbitration procedure and international mentorship programs, you become a well-rounded arbitration practitioner before you do your even first arbitration. So it can be somebody anywhere in the world. You can message anybody. People are very open to these things, but do not neglect the people closest to you. Thank you very much.
As invaluable insights. And I mean, before we, sorry. Before we round up, just a takeaway that as young practitioners, as has been said, we should make ourselves available. We should be proactive. We should take our lives in our own hands and ensure that whatever relationships we have with our mentors, they are valuable relationships that we can keep and very professional. We should try and keep our boundaries so that we don't lose the relationship. So thank you very much for joining us and see you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Especially appreciate you all. I think she kind of skipped a question, so we'll just address that question quickly. The question is from Diana. I don't know how our co-chair is not hungry, but I don't know. Okay, the question is Daniel actually supplying turkey jollof rice today in today's lunch? My brother, let me publicly say that I'm hungry. Are you supplying? Please, could you answer? Use your microphone. Well, 20 seconds.
This question was necessary for the first session. But I would say lunch has been served, and after now you get lunch.
They say, is there turkey inside? Okay. Well, we appreciate you all for doing justice to this. I also learned personally. This is very amazing. We have a special gift for everyone. I'd like to, with all due respect, invite our secretary to do us the honors of the presentation. I'd like to invite Dr. Adeyemi Agbelusi. Let's go and put our hands together. You come up, sir. You can do a quick exercise. The other fries will be served soon by Daniel. So it's fine too. So please, if we could just rise, take pictures together, take presentation, and then we can wrap up this segment. I'd like to just quickly establish that this session is proudly sponsored by Dwale Ovia and Alex Adedibe. I appreciate you for Adedibe. Yeah, we appreciate you for being a sponsor. Before we take a picture, sir, before we take a picture, I'd like you to please just talk about our mentorship that we have, and then we can take this picture. Please, you could sit just for a minute, and then we can do this.
All right, thank you very much. On behalf of the Chartered Institute, I'm the chairman of the mentorship committee, and we have a structured program. I think the link should be shared under the conference, and we've had one or two streams of people who have been mentored, and we will provide the email for those people who think that either as young or old practitioners, they need somebody to lead them. But like the panel has submitted today, your availability, your desire, your seriousness, and most importantly, taking your own career in your hand. You cannot outsource your success to anybody. You have to find it yourself. So the mentorship program of the CIM will definitely be opening on that stream, and all the requirements will be published. And once you apply and you're qualified, I'm sure that there are many of our mentors who have indicated their availability to help you, and I'm sure that you will get the best of it. So if you have any inquiries, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be able to assist you. Thank you very much.
So we'll take a picture now. I'd like to invite you, Ma, our branch chair, our co-chair for the conference. So then I invite you to just take a picture quickly, and then we can wrap this segment up. I'd like to once again appreciate our sponsors for this session, Dwale Ovia and Alex Adedibe. Appreciate you. Thank you very much for sponsoring this session. Okay, this picture will be different. We'll just allow them to position themselves, and I'll tell you what we're gonna, how we'll take the picture. The gentleman on the camera, I'm sure you're ready. Let's take this picture together. The branch chair is hugging everybody, but she didn't hug the MC. And I'm supposed to be her mentee on hugging. Okay, so take this picture. Daniel, can you do thumbs up and say Turkey? Daniel, just do it. Okay, that's fine. My name is Chooks the General. I'm done with this session. I'll be back. Okay. My Kenya colleague will take the next session. we invite the next person before jollof rice, not session. Yes, please. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Chair just hugged me. Can we clap for that hug, sir? Thank you. And then our co-chairs, one of them is jollof rice. Okay.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Much better, thank you. Are we hungry? Are we bored? Ah, that's better. So I take it that we all enjoyed this session and we have done our best to keep to time. So lunch is served, and as promised, you'll get Daniel's turkey. But now I want to request us to please stand up. Let us please stand up. Stretch out a bit. And at this last moment, I want to welcome the Vice Chair of the YMG. And I'm asking you to stand up because this lady has done a lot of work for this function today to be as it is. So please clap for her as she comes to join us. Welcome, Abishoy.
Good afternoon, everyone.
You may be seated. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. As we come to the end of today's refreshing and inspiring events, I am honored to express my sincere gratitude to you all. On behalf of everyone, especially the young members, the YMG, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all who made this occasion not only possible, but memorable. To our distinguished panelists, thank you for sharing your knowledge and insights. In section 1, we've had a unique opportunity to deepen our understanding on one of the most important aspects of arbitration, which is the art of cross-examination. And for that, we are very grateful. I believe we now understand this critical skill and appreciate the intricacies and the pivotal role it plays in arbitration, and the need for us to have a solid foundation to strengthen our advocacy skills, as cross-examination is an art, and your enthusiasm for mastering it speaks volume about your commitment to excellence in arbitration. For section 2, we had an insight into the evolving landscape of ADR, how we can rebrand ourselves, and we've been able to see that we need adaptability, we need to be innovative, and we need alignment with contemporary expectation for us to grow in that field. The speakers have shown us not only the why of rebranding, but how we should rebrand our image, so that we can embrace new tools and approaches in ADR that makes ADR more accessible and impactful, and we practitioners more visible, especially the young ones. We now have a fresh perspective and a renewed commitment to our work. Section 3 was a celebration of mentorship, one that has reminded us of the power of the guidance, of support, and shared knowledge in shaping our personal and professional journey. The stories the panelists shared and their profiles, which we can find on the brochure, has told us the impact of mentorship and how it can guide us, it can foster our growth and build our resilience. We now know what it means to be a mentor and mentee, and how the relationship can enrich not just one party, but both parties. To our participants, our young participants, thank you for your engagement, your curiosity, and openness to learning. It is your enthusiasm that's given life to this program, and because you asked, we delivered according to the polls. As you step forward in your ADL journey, know that your voice matters. Continue to develop these skills and be the change makers in your communities. We look forward to seeing the great strides you will make in this field. A special thanks to the branch ESCOs, the YMG Steering Committee, the CPC Chair, and the members and the members of the CPC, and all our behind-the-scenes supporters and our great sponsors. Your hard work behind the scene has made today's event a very enriched one. And everybody, I'm sure we are all happy at the end of the event. We are grateful to your commitment to nurturing the next generation of ADR practitioners. Finally, today, to everyone in attendance, we thank you for your interest and your support. Together, we are going to build a stronger, a more peaceful ADR space from the basic to the future. Thank you all. We look forward to seeing you all at the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to be the one. I thought Daniel would do this to announce the launch itself. Just a quick information. We have 3 service points downstairs. We could just